All right, here we go.
Welcome to Indiana Sports Beat Radio, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Know your role and shut your mouth, you jabroni!
Fires upfield into the end zone, and it's caught. Jelani Woods, touchdown! INDY!
43-point night for Tyrese Halliburton.
How do you like that, partner?
Galloway drives all the way to the hole, throws it up.
Got it!
And Indiana's got their first lead of this contest.
It's pretty simple. I win. Google me.
Now, here's your host, Jim Coyle.
Hey, everybody. How are you today? It is Friday. I am so glad to have you with us. Hope you're having a great one as we've hit the midway point of the month, I guess. 29 days in this month. So I guess when was that? Well, I guess it roughly today sometime. But appreciate you being with us. As always on this Friday as we get you ready for the weekend here at Indiana Sports Beat Radio, powered by Andy Moore Honda, where you can get the best in new and used vehicles and get more to your door at andymorehonda.com. And, of course, our friends over at Hoosier Hanks East, where we should be back on Sunday, I believe, for the Indiana basketball postgame show after the game with Todd Leary. Hope everybody's doing well. Looking forward to a fun time today with Bob Kravitz joining us, Casey Bartley from Boiler Upload, and the Todd Father, as we will preview Indiana taking on Northwestern on Sunday. Plenty of other things to talk about. Chris Holtmann, of course, was let go by Ohio State. Rutgers continues their surge in the Big Ten. Purdue had a close call last night. Maui, the information for Maui is out. Detroit gets off the schneid. They snap a 27-game losing streak at the hands of IUPUI, no less, 81-66. So there's that, and plenty more to talk about. Appreciate everybody jumping on the Andy Moore Honda hotline early and often. Brian, how you doing? He's coming to us from Ellington, Florida. I'm not sure if that's a normal haunt for him. Fred, of course, in Easton. Kevin down in Jeffersonville. Russell says he is present in the great city of churches and three rivers of none other than Fort Wayne, Indiana. Shout out to all of our peeps on 1380 The Fan, 100.9. Hope everybody is having a great time in the tremendous sports town there. And, of course, coming up immediately following us on 1380 The Fan today, Shannon Griffith will be filling in on the Sports Rush, so stay tuned for that as well. Brian, Russell, Mike Shenanigans on as well. Southern Wabash County. Bob down in Georgetown, Indiana. Philip, Clark had 49 points, 13 assists, 5 rebounds last night. She did. 5 laughs on as well. Robert. Bill is on with us. The original Bill. But yeah, I do. Brian says if Archie can get another job, Chris Holtmann can. Chris Holtmann will be fine. It just, for whatever reason, didn't work out at Ohio State, but he's a good coach. The game has just changed a lot, and it's difficult for college coaches. So for those that are not college coaches, I would imagine it's even all the more difficult. But looking forward to getting Michael back on the program, who was with us yesterday, Michael Mangarelli. I've got a lot of positive feedback. Everybody seemed to enjoy that segment. So, John Boy, we got to get him back on next week. The peeps, they liked it.
We can do that.
And like I said, when he came on, he thought we were just going to be on for like 10 minutes. I'm like, no, you'll be a whole segment, but he ended up going 2 and could have kept going as far as that goes. But last night, Purdue gets a close call at home. Minnesota gave them all they wanted. They ended up pulling away there, 84-76. St. Mary's, holy cow. Number 18, St. Mary's beats Pepperdine 103-59. That's not the biggest thing. St. Mary's scored 60 points in the second half. So they could have just stayed in the locker room the entire first half and won that game by 1. That's mind-boggling. Dusty May and Florida Atlantic get a win over Temple, 80-68. UMBC goes on the road, gets a win. Stony Brook. Rutgers continuing their surge. How about Rutgers? They get a home win, but over Northwestern, who Northwestern needs these wins. While I don't think that there's any doubt that Northwestern gets in the tournament, of course, Rutgers is they're going to make a case. If they can continue to get let's look at Rutgers' schedule. If they can manage, let's see. They've got to travel to Minnesota next. That's not going to be easy. Oh, well, they have won. Rutgers has won 4 in a row, FYI. They've got wins over Michigan, Maryland, Wisconsin, and Northwestern. Those last 2, those will greatly help their cause trying to get to the NCAA tournament. Let's see. In addition to having to travel to Minnesota, they also have to travel to Purdue. They get Maryland at home. They get Michigan at home. So there's 2 more potential wins. They do have, man, they got a rough end of their season. Then they have to go to Nebraska and back to Wisconsin. And then they get Ohio State. So that's a win. I'm going to give them 3 wins. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
That'd put them at 17-14. That's you're not getting in the tournament with that record.
Well, it depends on what the metrics said. Normally, I would agree with you, but
well, let me ask you this: right now, they have the exact same record as Indiana. Why are you giving Rutgers a chance at the NCAA tournament, but Indiana can't even make the NIT? And again, that's not something to toot their horn about. But
look at the metrics here. Look at the metrics, John.
What's Rutgers and KenPom? They're not anything to write home about.
They beat Indiana, number 1.
That shouldn't mean anything according to us. We don't think Indiana is very good on this show.
Well, it's not. They're not. They're below par. They're absolutely.
Rutgers has a losing record in the Big Ten right now, even though they've won 4 in a row.
That's what's called surging. That's why I said they are surging and trying to make a case for their end of season fortunes, and they will have to do that to turn that around. And whether or not they're able to is exactly what we're talking about.
I just think it's interesting that it's possible for Rutgers to do it, but there's no way that Indiana can do it because they're that terrible when they have the exact same.
Well, John,
and
how about you start with the fact that Rutgers has won 4 straight? Indiana doesn't do that in the Big Ten. Indiana is not beating teams like this. There's a difference.
I will say this. The one thing that Rutgers does have is they do have a quality win, which is Wisconsin. It's not as quality as you would want it to be, considering that Wisconsin has lost several in a row before they beat Ohio State. But look at the other 3 that they have. Michigan, Maryland, 2 wins that Indiana also has. And then they have Northwestern, who Indiana will also get a chance at this weekend. So they'll have a chance to stay on par with the Scarlet Knights. The Hoosiers will. But I don't think we should be acting like this Rutgers team is getting in the NCAA tournament, because that's not going to happen.
Well, I don't think that I said they're getting in. I said that they're trying to make a case to get in, and by winning 4 straight. And if they can continue to do that, they will continue to make a case for that. And that is what I said. The reason I don't think Indiana, because Indiana has not done anything to show me that they can do what is needed over the course of these final games. Indiana is picked to go like 1 and whatever. So that's why there's a reason. It's not just pulling stuff out of thin air.
I didn't say you're
What have-
pulling out of thin air.
What's that? Well, when you're trying to, there's a reason why the comparisons are different.
Well, I'm looking at
one
Rutgers
team
right
was-
now, and I'm going through each of their games to see which one's their favorite.
I'm talking about right now, dude. Right now, they're surging. They're trying to end the season and increase their resume. And they are successfully doing that at the moment. Indiana's not been
You can
doing
say
that.
that. All I'm doing is going against what you're saying. All I'm doing is telling you why Rutgers isn't going to get in.
And they very well might. At this day, would they get in? No. But there's my point that I made. They're surging. They've won 4 straight. And if they continue to do that, that will definitely change. It's not impossible for Rutgers to get in. I find it to be highly, highly unlikely for Indiana. There's no way Indiana's getting in. They have no quality wins. Zero quality wins. So that's why Indiana has zero chance of making it to the NCAA tournament.
I want to be clear.
know.
I wasn't trying to argue that Indiana should be considered for the NCAA tournament. I know that they.
I don't think that you were. I think that you were saying that there's no way that Rutgers has a shot either.
It's just interesting to think that. And again, I know that the difference is that they've won 4 straight, but it also matters who they've been playing against as well.
It's not just that. It's not just that they've won 4 straight. They've won 4 straight, and they have more opportunities. They've shown that they can win. They've shown that they can win and are winning right now. They're winning right now. So if they can continue that, they give themselves a shot for that to achieve that. Then when you go win 2 games at the Big Ten tournament, you don't have to get to the championship. You add 2 more wins along there, they damn sure have a shot to get to the NCAA tournament. If they can win 17 regular season games and then go win 2 in the Big Ten tournament, that gives you 19 wins.
I don't think in this Big Ten you can have less than 20 wins and make the NCAA tournament. That's just my opinion. But Big Ten is not what it needs to be to give you that extra boost with a bit of a lousy record. What would their conference record be if they had 19 wins? Right now, they're 6-7. And if they win 5 more, I guess they'll finish the year. They'd be 11-9 in the conference, I believe, which is kind of that threshold on being in and not being in.
It gives you the opportunity. In other words, so you're saying there's a chance, which is exactly all that I was saying when we started off. They have a chance. But anyway,
I'm going to go and throw this out there. I said this off the air yesterday, and I said I was going to say it on the air today. I think Indiana, and I know that they haven't shown it lately, but there is no reason that with the roster that they have, and I'm not saying they're world beaters because they're far from it, but there is no reason that with the schedule in front of them that Indiana cannot win up to 5 of their last 7 games. I'm not saying they're going to win all of them because there's really no reason to think that they could win 5 out of the last 7 realistically. But you're talking about Rutgers surging, right? If Indiana can begin a run where they win 2 or 3 in a row, something they haven't done since December, people will be talking about this team, not like they're going to go on some sort of March Madness run, but people will begin to understand that this isn't as bad of a group as some people have made them out to be. So again, back to the records. We were talking about if Rutgers can get to 11-9, they might be an NCAA tournament team. Indiana has the exact same conference and overall record as Rutgers. Their differences in the wins
they give themselves a chance, John. You got to keep it straight. You can't change. They give themselves a chance, is what I said.
Okay, I did not disagree with you just then. Let me finish my point. I didn't say that we weren't giving Rutgers a chance or that they didn't.
We're going to take a break right now. We got a lot more coming up. Bob Kravitz joins us on the program today, and we'll be back with all that and a lot more right afterwards.
We'll be right back for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
In the market. Roberto.
How are you, buddy?
Oh, I'm just living the dream. How are you?
Well, you sound very peppy.
Chipper?
Chipper, that's the word. What's the hat today?
Oh, that's Free Think Apparel and promotions, part of one of our sponsors. Which
Gotcha. Oh, man. Just woke up.
Oh boy, golf season right around the corner.
I just got back from Florida. I was in Florida for 4 days and played pretty decent, actually. And we went to Tampa and did a quick golf trip before the All-Star game. Hey, just
Not
so
bad.
you know, I'll be out of town from the 21st to the 28th. So whatever Fridays fall within that range, I won't be doing the show.
Gotcha.
I'll send you a text just to remind you.
10 seconds.
Cooked to perfection in Chop Shop Steakhouse. Chop Shop Market and Table, a part of the Wild Food Group, is your butcher, baker, and fish house, no matter where you live.
This segment is brought to you by the Chop Shop, home of the Indiana football and men's basketball coaches shows. Welcome back to Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio on this Friday. I am so glad to have you with us and hope you're ready for a weekend. Bob Kravitz from BobKravitz.com with us now. How are you, sir? How was your week?
Oh, it was wonderful. I went to Tampa and played golf. That's what I did. Played some mediocre golf, drank a couple of beers, had some seafood, and life was good. And now I'm back for the All-Star game.
Sounds like you are just living the life of Riley.
I am a winner at the game of life, Jim Coyle.
That is never been a truer statement has never been said. You are certainly a champion. The All-Star game, the NBA All-Star game in Indianapolis this weekend, another big-time sporting event hitting the Circle City, and like everything, they do it so well. What are you participating in these endeavors?
Well, today I am. They have the Rising Stars media availability at about 11 to 1. Then at 2 o'clock, I am running over to the Hilton to talk to Reggie Miller.
Oh, nice.
Then I'm going to head back and do some writing and do the Rising Stars game tonight. And we'll just go from there. Tomorrow, lots going on, media day for the All-Stars, Halliburton and the whole bit. And the skills competition is Saturday night, so that'll be fun. If you have not seen this little dunker named Mac McClung, this guy is out of this world. Little, maybe 6 foot tall guy who can absolutely fly. And he won the slam dunk contest last year in Salt Lake, and good luck beating him this year. This guy is amazing.
Reminds me of you.
Well, I used to have the hops, 3-4 inches,
Yeah, you and me both, brother. You and me both.
I was the last of the great Jewish dunkers.
I remember that. I kind of remember that.
Oh yeah.
It was the problem was keeping the yarmulke on, right?
Yes. You're unbelievable.
Oh man. The biggest thing that I'm looking forward to, or one of the few things I'm looking forward to, is the Steph Curry, Stephanie Onskew matchup. The 3-point contest between these two beasts of shooters.
Yeah,
And
it's Sabrina Ionescu, and from what I understand, she's going to shoot from 23 feet 9 inches, which is the NBA three, and is not the normal women's games three. So I'd put a lot of money on Steph. I don't know why she's doing that. I would think she would shoot from the women's three. So
because she's got confidence, baby.
that confidence.
She ain't scared.
I'm old enough to remember Billie Jean King and Bobby Riggs. You know, this has got a different feel to it, obviously. I mean, there's a lot of mutual respect, and it's not a battle of the sexes or anything, but it will be very, very cool on Saturday night.
Absolutely. I'm looking forward to that because it could go either way. It really could.
That's going to win because it's from 23-9. Hey, I'll tell you who I want to see in that thing is Caitlin Clark.
Caitlin Clark.
Hell, man, you see that 40 that logo 3 she hit to break the record? Are you kidding me? I mean, she'd work.
Last night I said, I tell you what, I can't wait till next year to see Caitlin Clark in this 3-point contest with Ionescu, and those two go at it.
Yeah.
Caitlin Clark's going to be ready.
Oh yeah, and I hope and pray that she comes out and becomes she's broken the record. She's done everything you can do in college. I got to think she comes out and becomes a member of the Indiana Fever next year. I mean, her and Aaliyah Boston combined, that's going to turn this franchise back around.
I don't see her not coming out. I know that she could stay, but at the end of the day, other than the fact that I don't know that if they can beat South Carolina or not, because South Carolina is a juggernaut,
right?
But that would be the only thing left for her,
right?
So I tell you what, I just found out. I did not realize. I know you already know this probably, but I did not realize Connor McCaffrey works for the Pacers.
Yes, he does. Mm-hmm.
That's Caitlin Clark's boyfriend. So conveniently, they would both reside in Indianapolis. So that kind of gives a little more weight to that potentially.
Yeah, I hadn't thought about that. I knew that Connor worked for the.
You're welcome.
For the Pacers, but that's interesting. I have to reach out to him at some point.
I want credit in the story.
Yeah, no.
Indiana takes on Northwestern this weekend. Northwestern just got beat by a surging Rutgers team who has won 4 straight. But Northwestern needed that win, which means now they really need to beat Indiana. They cannot afford to lose to Indiana, as not that I don't think that they're going to make the tournament, but they're not where they would like to be in the hierarchy of teams.
Right. I think they're pretty safe. They're not completely safe, when it comes to making the NCAA tournament. The sad thing is I saw that Barry got hurt, so he's gone. I think for the season.
That only leaves them with 3 guards averaging double figures,
right,
and averaging 42% from behind the arc.
Right. Yeah, they. I'll tell you what, they've. I've seen their games against Purdue, and they're one of the most impressive teams in the Big Ten that I've seen. I mean, it's amazing. You watch them, and their shot making is incredible. I mean, Boo Buie is, he clearly deserves to be on the Pookie list, huh?
Everybody in the world should have to take a shot every time the words Boo Buie are said.
Oh, okay. Well, let me see if I got anything around here.
But yeah, I'm not shocked that they lost at Rutgers. Their defense has just become just gritty. And we were having a spirited discussion earlier. I said that hey, they've won 4 straight. If they can manage the remaining part of their schedule, they're trying to give themselves an excuse to make the NCAA tournament.
Yeah, I mean, Steve Peichel every year does this, and so it doesn't surprise me. I mean, it surprises me in the sense that having seen them earlier in the season, I thought they don't have anybody who can make a shot.
Yep, take you a pull of something there. Speaking of which, I did see that Hoosiers for Good and Hoosiers Collect, Indiana's official NIL collective, has a surprise coming out here on the 20th of this month, and it is coming from the Starlight Distillery down there in southern Indiana, connected with Huber's Winery and Orchard. So maybe we'll have something we can offer you then.
That would be just lovely.
You're never going to turn that down, huh?
Hell no.
Chris Holtman.
Yeah.
First and only coach. Yeah, he's a great guy. Everybody liked him, but it didn't work out. Part of that, I think, Bob, is because of the changes in this game over the last couple of years. Yeah. It has really impacted people.
Yeah, I mean, you've got to be year to year with your teams. I mean, this whole idea of growing from within, getting old and staying old, it works for Matt Painter. It works in a couple of places, but for the most part, you've got to hit the portal hard, and you've got to update your team on an annual basis. And I think Chris is old school, and he had a team that, from what I understand, I'm no expert on Ohio State basketball, but he wanted to grow from within, and do it kind of the traditional way, and it just didn't work.
Yeah, and unfortunately, that's not going to work. And Ohio State, I don't know what they gain by doing that now, because no one that they're going to hire is going to be available
right
until April.
Right.
So I know that, it's always nice, I guess, to get out in front of things a little bit.
Right.
It seems like a little bit more, not that Ohio State basketball, they're not losing anything because they're not going anywhere.
Right.
So I guess that's part of it, but it's I don't know. I think it was a little soon.
Yeah, I'm a little surprised they did it when they did it. I mean, look, Ohio State, their season's pretty much cooked, but I understand he was 30-30 the last 2 years in the Big Ten. From what if my numbers are right, that ain't good enough at Ohio State. It just isn't. And again, you've got to hit the portal hard, and you've got to get change agents in there every single season, and he hasn't done that.
Nope. Indiana, of course, Northwestern, who just lost to Rutgers, and like I said, they need to not lose those games. They definitely need to not lose this game. So that puts Indiana behind the 8 ball at home, which should make this a quality game. Unfortunately, for Indiana, their nemesis has been other teams having good guard play.
Yeah.
And unfortunately,
3-point shooting.
Northwestern has really good guard play, even without Barry.
Well, it's time for a drink because who do they got? Boo Booey.
Yeah. Boo Booey, what's he averaging? Like 21 points a game.
Yeah.
They're shooting. Those guys they're shooting 40% from behind the arc. And that's going to be very difficult for Indiana from a defensive standpoint because they have not defended that all season.
It's a horrible matchup. Just a horrible matchup. I mean, when is that game? I'm so all-star game oriented right now that I don't even know what the schedule is. When does IU play?
Oh, it's Sunday.
No, that's 3 o'clock.
Yeah, 3. I couldn't remember the exact time. There
Yeah.
3
Sunday.
3 p.m. So there you go on Sunday.
I'll be at the All-Star festivities that day, so I'll watch it on the tube.
Yeah, and we will see how that one turns out. But Indiana with Northwestern left, they have Nebraska that will come in, and Penn State that they have to go on the road to. Then Wisconsin comes in. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 games left. I don't know what is Indiana playing for right now.
NIT, baby. NIT.
Do you think they still have a shot at the NIT?
Yeah, sure. Why not? I mean, I think if the NIT has an opportunity, if Indiana wants to play in it, and I would suspect they would. But yeah, sure. I mean, you only got to be above 500, right?
I believe that is the rule now.
So yeah, NIT, couple of home games, a few extra practices. I don't see why they wouldn't turn that down.
Well, here's a problem: is Indiana's women's program will probably be hosting in the NCAA tournament.
Right. Yeah, so that's going to create. That might create a log jam, schedule-wise, for Assembly Hall. But cross that bridge when you get to it. At least they're going to be in the NCAA tournament.
Absolutely. What if I was asking Mike Woodson a question right now, which I'll do that tomorrow on the Saturday morning at 11 a.m. presser, which that's a weird one. But I guess my question to him would be, what is the focus right now for what is the goal of this team for these last 7 games? And I know to win, that's easy. That's not, I'm talking about from a bigger picture standpoint. What is the goal? What is the overall look that they're trying to do? I have no idea what the focus.
I don't know. That's a great question to ask, and I'd be really curious what his answer might be, because I mean,
we got to just keep on working. We just
got to get better. I gotta coach them up.
I got to get these guys over the hump.
I got to get
these guys over the hump.
Yeah, over the hump. You got to get them there. You're under the hump. You're below the hump. You're screwed. You got to get over the hump.
Over the hump, and hump's growing. Hump grows
with your ball club.
Ball club hump grows. It's bigger. Tougher to get over the hump. Sounds like the Trump hump or something. Exactly. But so then if they make the NIT, how does this season affect recruiting for Indiana?
It can't help. I mean, they got McNeely, coming in, so that helps, obviously. I mean, they got to hit the portal. They got to hit it hard. They need the young guys, the ones who decide to stick around. They need them to grow the hell up. I mean, when is CJ Gunn going to become a player? Caleb Banks. I mean, these guys, they've got no depth. So I mean, maybe that's what you're looking for in these last 7 games, for a couple of people to show that they're part of the future.
Yeah, that's another thing. We no idea what next year will look like.
None.
No idea who's leaving through the. I think the Kalel Ware is gone regardless.
I do too. I think Mbako is too.
Now, do you think he's gone via the draft or via transfer portal?
Draft. I think he's probably still a first round pick. I just don't
really.
Yeah. No, do I think he's a great player?
I don't doubt his talent, but I just don't know that he's showed it.
He hasn't showed it, but the NBA doesn't care if you've shown it or not. The NBA wants to know if you have those rare traits, and he's got some of them. So I would suspect that, excuse my voice, I would suspect that they're going to lose both those guys to the NBA draft.
And then you got those that are graduating. Xavier Johnson, I think Anthony Walker. Anthony Walker. Then if there are transfers, Caleb Banks, you just meant, you know, he's basically disappeared. And so if they had trouble, you know, filling in holes last year by virtue of leaving an open scholarship, it's going to be just as bad, if not worse, this year. They've got one guy that is signed up for 2024.
That's exactly right. And I don't know what they're going to do, Jim. I mean, that's look, they gave Woodson that $1 million raise for no apparent reason. Go earn it. Go earn the damn money. You know, I mean, there are plenty of opportunities out there. He's got more money than God in the NIL, you know, with NIL and everything else. So, you know, fix it. Just fix the damn thing.
Yeah, and I don't think that there's any doubt that next season his job is on the line.
Oh, there's no doubt. There's no doubt. The clock be ticking.
How much improvement does there need to be for that to be saved?
Just some. You know, look, I don't think anybody's asking them to knock off, you know, Purdue or whoever else.
But I mean, they've got to make the NCAA tournament, right?
They got to make the NCAA tournament, and there's, you know, they got to be a top 4, top 5 team in the Big Ten and make the NCAA tournament. So I don't know how he's going to pull that off. He's got to recruit like his job depends on it, because it does.
Absolutely. What is the latest? I can't get your piece pulled up. What is the latest that you have out right now?
Well, I went. It's been a couple of days. I don't even remember. It's about a week ago, because I went to Tampa to play golf, because I'm a hardworking guy. So
then what's coming up next instead?
What's coming up next? I'm glad you asked. I'm talking to Reggie Miller today. At Downtown Hotel. Talk about his all-star experience, and, you know, what he sees with the league these days. And we got the skills competition tomorrow. Tyrese Halliburton and all those folks will be in that. And then the all-star game is Sunday night. I'll write about that. So a couple of late nights. My wife won't see me, and she's thrilled.
I saw a piece yesterday. I read that Dana wrote about the 3-point shooting contest from way back in the day when Bird hits the last one with his finger in the air. I didn't remember that Dale Ellis was who he beat.
That's right, Dale Ellis. I covered Dale Ellis for a short period of time. He was a great shooter. I mean, he was right there with Allen, with Reggie, with Larry. I mean, he could really light it up, especially when he played for when he was in Seattle.
Yeah, that was just a fun time. But the funnest part about that was reading how the locker room back then, it was not all buddy.
No.
And they were talking about the guys were in there stretching, getting ready, and then Bird walks in and makes one of the greatest statements in the history of sports. Which one of you dudes are playing for second?
Good dude.
And yeah, I interjected that as a just to keep it a PG show. But basically that happened. He said that, and it wasn't something that guys just laughed about. It pissed some of them off, because they're in this to win, man.
Oh, absolutely. And, you know, I just hope, and I'm going to write about that this week. I just hope the All-Star game is worth a damn, because I got to tell you, it bottomed out in Salt Lake City last year. It was unwatchable. I mean, there was no defense being played. There wasn't even a hint of defense in that game. It's almost like you need to bring Ron Artest back just so somebody plays defense. Antetokounmpo always plays hard, but aside from him, guys are just lollygagging. And I think it's important for the All-Star game that guys take it seriously this year, because I think there are a lot of people who wonder whether the NBA All-Star game is going to go the way of the Pro Bowl, and you'll end up with a bunch of skills competitions.
Yeah, it doesn't mean what it used to mean. But anytime you can use the term lollygagging, I'm all for it. I mean, Bull Durham, you lollygag over here, you lollygag over there. It's just funny how something so simple can just jar memories.
I think I need to put that in my column. I got to get lollygag in there. That's
you got to get lollygag in there. That is, it's underappreciated and underused.
I would agree with that completely.
That reminds me of Bob Kravitz. He's underappreciated and underused.
Yeah, well, I'm semi-retired.
Well, that's good for you, buddy. We appreciate having you here with us, though.
All right, buddy. Thank you.
Enjoy it and go out and have a great weekend. Enjoy the NBA All-Star festivities.
I will be festive.
Festivus for the rest of us. We've got lots more coming up on Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Make sure you follow Bob Kravitz at bobkravitz.com for all of his coverage on the Pacers, the Hoosiers, the Boilers, and at all. Back with more, brought to you by our good friends from the Chop Shop Market and Table, where you can find Inside Indiana Basketball. It's Monday, and you can pick up some great Wagyu steaks from the Voiles family Wagyu farm right around here as well. Back with more right after this.
We'll be right back for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
If you're looking for a home 1 bunch of lollygaggers. Let's see. What the hell am I looking for? Oh, yeah. Baseball season starts today. Oh, come on. Here we go. Bang, bang. Bing bong, bing bong, bing bong, bang.
Seconds.
50 days or get 0.9% APR financing for 36 months on a 2023 Honda Ridgeline. Go to AndyMooreHonda.com and get more to your door.
This segment is brought to you by Remax Advanced Realty, Indy Home Pros team by Cheryl Sizemore. Welcome back to Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Hey, welcome back. It is Friday. That means it is time for the weekend. Looking forward to it. Indiana plays Northwestern on Sunday. You've got the NBA All-Star Game and all of the festivities that surround it going on in Indianapolis. Looking forward to talking to Casey Bartley from Boiler Upload in the next hour, as well as Todd Leary will join us, excuse me, to preview this weekend's Indiana and Northwestern game. The Wildcats come in to Bloomington on Sunday. The Hoosiers have a week off to prepare, heal up, and do the things that they need to do to get ready for that game. Looking at the Big Ten standings now after last night, Purdue is just basically, they're not untouchable, but it's going to take something major for them to not win the Big Ten this season. They've got a 2-game lead over Illinois, whom they have yet to play, but Purdue has won 9 straight right now. That is not even close. There's no one close to them with that. Rutgers is next with 4 straight wins. Other than that, it's just like 1 and 2s amongst everyone. So Purdue kind of just running away with the Big Ten this year, which not a terrific surprise. Somewhat kind of expected Michigan State to be a little bit better than they were early. They had a bad start, but they have seemed to have things going in the right direction. They're sitting at 16-9 overall right now. They're 8-6 in the conference, which puts them in a 2-way tie for 4th place with Northwestern after they dropped the game last night. And the Wildcats set at 17-8. So they're 13-1. I'd be hard pressed to imagine that they're not going to make it. As a matter of fact, Purdue, Illinois, Wisconsin, Northwestern, Michigan State, 5 teams that will make it into the NCAA tournament from the Big Ten without question. But there will be a 6th team. And who will that 6th team be? Right now, Nebraska, unbelievably, probably has the best shot at being that team. They're sitting at 17-8 overall. But they're at 500 in Big Ten play, 7-7. So they've got to get some wins. But they've had a decent season, especially for Nebraska. The fact that they're in 6th place, surprising. Then you have Minnesota, Indiana, and Rutgers now all tied. They're in a mess together. Then Iowa and Maryland and Penn State in a group. And then you have Ohio State and Michigan just at the bottom. Who will be the 4 teams that have to play on the first day of the Big Ten tournament? There's just a gigantic group of them that includes Minnesota, Indiana, Rutgers, Iowa, and Maryland, along with Penn State. Those teams, you don't want to play on the first day for sure. Other than it's an opportunity to rack up wins. So there is that. Who's going to replace Chris Holtmann? What are your thoughts on who that will be? I know everyone throws all these names out. It won't be Mick Cronin. He's handcuffed to UCLA, like I talked about yesterday with buyouts. And speaking of buyouts, don't cry for me, Argentina, because Chris Holtmann walks away with a nice little pack, a nice little sandwich bag packed with $12.8 million in it. Here's the however much he'd already made. It's probably close to 28 million previously. And then here's another 13 million. Just a little tip. Just a tip. I'm like, $13 million. This is not the first time, obviously, we've talked about this. It's been a conversation that has gone on from football season. Where this is a new phenomenon. And it started with some of the big time coaches, but now it is kind of going across the board. And I'm like, why do all these people deserve these kinds of stupid buyout clauses? How is there not production clauses in those contracts? I mean, in what world does a job give you nothing but, oh, you're just going to get paid no matter what? It doesn't matter if you succeed or fail. You're going to get paid. How about if you fail, you don't get X, Y, and Z? Wouldn't that kind of give someone more impetus to succeed? If they actually had something on the line? These guys have nothing on the line. They're getting paid regardless. So it's like fired, schmired. Who cares? I don't get that. It is one of the biggest wastes of money in all of sports. Is it break time?
Yes.
We've got to take a break coming up in the next hour. Casey Bartley from Boiler Upload will join us. We'll talk some more Big Ten basketball. And the Todd Father, Todd Leary, will join us as well. Stay tuned. We've got lots more coming up. Back with all that and more right after this.
We'll be right back for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
In the market for yeah, that's a great one.
I haven't heard from Casey, but I've tried reaching out twice about him coming on at 9:30, so we'll see.
Oh. Yeah, dang it.
I did tell him if he can't do 9:30 that we'll just talk to him next time, because I know Todd's at 9:50.
Let me call him. Let me try to call him. Maybe because he probably didn't see it or whatever. His phone went straight to stinking voicemail. All right. Oh man. Or Casey can do 10-10, which would probably be easier since if he didn't see it already.
If he gets back to me, I'll let him know.
Yeah, I'm going to send him a text now, too. If you don't see this.
$10 seconds. Co Real Estate for additional information. 812-583-0919 or go to mystonecrestliving.com. That's mystonecrestliving.com for more details.
This segment is brought to you by the Ugly Grouper. Welcome back to Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Hey, everybody, welcome back. Appreciate you being with us on this February day. The weather has been unbelievable, although yesterday I did go out for some things, and I noticed that the roads were all, when you see those lines on the road, across the road where they've sprayed, you're like, uh-oh. And so I had an uh-oh moment. I'm like, are we expecting some weather? And I noticed that it's just supposed to potentially today, but that's it. Holy crap. And then guess what? Monday, 50s. Wednesday, 60. This is going to be just a lovely February. This weekend, on the docket for the Big Ten on Saturday, Nebraska has Penn State at home in that's a must-win game for Penn State. I mean, for Nebraska, rather. My fault. Nebraska has to win that game. They're 7-7 in the Big Ten. They have got to get on the right side of 500 and stay there. Wisconsin goes to Iowa, and to me, it's not a must-win from a standpoint of making the tournament, but it's a must-win as far as keeping yourself up, because that 4-game losing stretch kind of hurt them a little bit. Illinois goes to Maryland, which has been a difficult place to play, but not as difficult this season as it was last. And Illinois still in the hunt for the Big Ten, on the outside looking in a little bit, 2 games back of Purdue, but they're playing really well. You want to talk about guard play? Terrence Shannon, 21 points a game. Yeah, they've got it. So if they can go to Maryland and get that win and go to 10-4 in the Big Ten, 17-6, that would put them at 17-6 overall. Then Michigan State and Michigan, the interstate battle, that happens as well. Michigan I think Michigan is the next Big Ten team looking for a coach? I think that is more than possible. Is it likely or just more than possible? I don't know the answer to that, to be honest with you. I don't know what the vibe in Ann Arbor is right now. Then on Sunday, of course, Indiana hosting Northwestern at 3. But prior to that, Purdue gets which should be a workout as they travel to Columbus to take on Ohio State. And Rutgers goes to Minnesota. Now that should actually be a good game. The defense of Rutgers and the tenacity they played with, but you're going to a rough place to play, man. The Barn in Minneapolis is a tough place to play. Minnesota fighting for a postseason berth as well. As we were talking about earlier, they're 1 game under 500, but they're 15-9 overall. It's going to take something for either Minnesota or Rutgers. I don't know who has a better shot. Minnesota has one game better record than Rutgers, but I'd have to go through both teams' analytics. But I still, no matter what, I see 6 teams coming out of the Big Ten this year. You compare that, 6 out of 14 in the Big Ten. 6. The Big 12, do they have 12 or 14 teams? I can't recall. But they are expected to get 10 teams into the tournament. I know Mike DeCourcy did not agree with my opinion that the Big 12 is a rough and tumble conference. I'm sure he's right, but I just am not going to pull off of that opinion. It doesn't mean that they're going to win a national championship. They're a tough-ass conference. You go to those, are you kidding me? Go to those different places and play. It's kind of the old school Big Ten. So it will be interesting to see. I'm looking forward to hopefully Casey joining us, because I want to. The other day when we had Aaron Torres on from Fox Sports Radio, he asked me, and I saw him repost it this morning, is the Final Four and a national championship is this a make or break year for Purdue? And I mean, I think yes, because you have a generational player in Zach Edey. And while I say good things about Purdue all the time, it just takes the one thing to get fans in a tizzy. And doesn't matter who they're a fan of. I can say one negative thing about Indiana and people will go off. But Purdue is a hard team to beat. But Zach Edey is one of these players that doesn't come along very often. He's unique because of why he's not a typical basketball player. He's a giant. He's a giant that you get the ball to, and he's hard to stop because he's got a big mass that moves. And so layups and dunks are quite easy. But in having discussions with Purdue fans who didn't like what I said, basically, I said, all right, I'll tell you what. I think it was because I said that Purdue's guards are not necessarily superior as throughout the country, which I still do not believe that as a group they are superior, or individually they're superior. You've got too many guys that are. Boo-booey. Take a shot, everybody. Thought I'd give you that little gift. Terrence Shannon, right in the Big Ten. And that's before you go to the Big 12 or any place else. There are just, so you give me Zach Edey and I'll take Northwestern. Put Zach Edey on Northwestern with those guards. I think that team would be, that would be back to having one of those yikes teams that nobody wants to ever play. It's not dissing Braden Smith or Fletcher Lawyer or Lance Jones, because they're all good players. They've all had nights where they have just went off and can. And the addition of Lance Jones, the only player that Matt Painter added, was perfect for them, because he has given them a boost right where they need it. But even with that, they're not still. If Braden Smith and Fletcher Lawyer were probably juniors, especially seniors, this may be a different conversation. but they're still, I mean, they're greatly improved. They're very good. They do great things, but I do not call them superior. I'm sorry. It has nothing to do with it being Purdue. So if you're a Purdue fan, you're just going to have to get over yourself. I just look at guys like Terrence Shannon, Boo Buie in this league, Tyson Walker, other guys. And then you go outside the league, Reed Shepherd. There are just so many guys that are good. But Purdue can absolutely, as a matter of fact, Purdue is one of two teams that I would consider being the odds-on favorite to win the national championship this year. There's no way you cannot consider Purdue an odds-on favorite. But at the same time, as Aaron Torres from Fox Sports Radio said the other day with us, how much has the Big Ten tested Purdue this year? I mean, I know that they've been tested. Northwestern certainly ran them through the ringer, beating them once and then almost beating them in West Lafayette. And why? Superior guard play. That's at least my opinion there. So it's going to take a team that has superior guard play to beat Purdue and someone that can just handle Edey. You don't have to, you're not going to shut him down, but you've got to be able to handle him. Minnesota was working on that last night, but not quite enough. So the Maui Invitational is back in Hawaii. Indiana's not listed in it, but they're going to Atlantis instead. But I did see last night that it is returning to the Lahaina Center, which it had to be moved because of the wildfires that devastated that area last year. So first of all, it is great to see the Maui Invitational back where it belongs, in that hot box of a gym. It's a little bitty elementary school looking gym that is a hot box. But they announced the 24 tournament will return to the island of Maui after the wildfires on Maui caused a move to Honolulu in 2023. The 41st annual tournament returns to the historic Lahaina Civic Center November 25th through the 27th of this year, and includes 5 of the current top 20 teams in college basketball, including number 1 and defending national champion UConn, North Carolina, Iowa State, Auburn, and Dayton. Colorado, Memphis, and Michigan State round out the final. Gee whiz. That's a lineup, peeps. Holy cow. UConn, North Carolina, Iowa State, who is a team don't sleep on. They can make the Final Four. Auburn, Dayton, I don't see them as a Final Four team. Michigan State, I don't either. But UConn, North Carolina, Iowa State, and Auburn, there's 4 teams that can easily make the Final Four. So, but just good to see it back. There's no way for me to think about the Maui Invitational without thinking about Chaminade and Ralph Sampson. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we have the Todd father with us. Talk more college basketball. Indiana hosting Northwestern this weekend as well. Hold on. Buckle up. Back with more, brought to you by the Ugly Grouper on Anna Maria Island, Florida. For all of our peeps down in Florida listening, or those traveling down that way, make sure you stop by, and we'll talk about that and how you can improve your jump shot with myjumpshot.com right after this.
We'll be right back for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Formerly. Hello. Good day, sir.
Whoa.
Uh-oh.
You sound like a robot. Try either reconnecting your headphones or maybe jumping out and coming back in.
Wow, 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 wow.
It's the same.
That's just a bad connection, I think. We got a bad connection. Boo booey. Take a shot, everybody. Boo booey. Boo booey. Boo booey.
All right, let's try this again.
I can already tell it's good. Well,
Can you hear me now?
Yes, sir.
I can. Sounds fine. Just lost your camera.
All right.
There you go.
Shouldn't
He's
have.
back. He's back. Boo booey.
Yeah, I didn't do anything.
Take a shot. Boo booey. It's just some whatever. It's kind of connections sometimes. It's just stupid connections. It's weird.
Yeah. No, I know.
No, I think that everywhere in the world, every time the name Boo Booey is said, you have to take a shot. That's got to be the greatest drinking game of all time. Can you imagine during a college basketball game if you had to take a shot in which he's playing in? You couldn't make it through the first half.
What about a Zach Edey? What about a Zach Edey shot? My
yeah,
gosh.
but that doesn't roll off the tongue like Boo
It
Booey.
doesn't. Nothing does.
Boo Booey. Boo Booey.
Yeah. Did you see the kid get kicked out? Did you see the kid get kicked out last night?
Of which game?
Northwestern.
I did not.
For another nut shot at Rutgers, same as Xavier. Three totally different referees.
That is hilarious.
Ryan Langford.
And the funniest thing is that Rutgers is the hardest defending team that probably in the Big Ten. They're the one that plays the kind of the roughest.
I'm an Indiana fan, so I'm being the opposite of biased here. But Xavier deserved to get kicked out for his. This kid last night didn't. Like this was
10
he was getting
seconds,
trapped.
guys.
He was getting trapped. It was a basketball play.
6 months on a 2023 Honda Ridgeline. Go to AndyMooreHonda.com and get more to your door.
This segment is brought to you by Hoosier Hanks East. Welcome back to Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio on with us right now. Welcome aboard. How are things going, sir? The Todd father.
Things are great. Looking forward to a Sunday victory at Assembly Hall, hopefully.
Yeah, that Northwestern is, I've talked about, they have Indiana's kryptonite. Very good guard play. Very good perimeter guard play. And of course, and it starts with Boo Booey. Boom, take a shot. But it's not just him. They just lost Ty Berry. Yep. They still have 3 guards that are averaging double figures that are all shooting over roughly 40% from 3. Berry was shooting 43%. The worst shooter that's left is shooting 34%. That's Brooks Barnheiser, an Indiana kid.
Yeah, I mean, look, they're really good. They're a totally different team than they were 2 weeks ago because they've had to restructure everything. And jumping right into it. I mean, if Indiana can figure out a way, I'm gonna really speak out of both sides of my mouth here because I don't want Indiana to have a game plan of let's get it down the floor and every single time down we've got to just figure out a way to throw it inside because it just creates too many turnovers, too many passes. There's too much going on. We need more dribble penetration and that kind of stuff. But on the flip side of that, if Indiana can get that Matthew Nicholson big guy that they have in foul trouble, they have no one to bring in. Like they have no backups inside. They're had to change their lineup. Now they've got Nick Martinelli in the starting lineup, and he used to be basically their whole bench coming in. So outside of some kid who probably doesn't have a career high higher than 10 points, if someone comes in off the bench and has some career day, that's going to be trouble for Indiana. Outside of that, Indiana has a great chance of winning this game because Northwestern is just so thin right now. They just have no depth at all.
Yeah, and this would be a great win for Indiana. It would probably be their best win of the season.
Yeah, well, for sure at this point it would be, and you've got to look at it. What Northwestern is going to try to do. They're going to try to shorten the game. Like I'll be shocked if you don't see Boo Buie just absolutely walking the ball up the floor and crossing the 10-second line at 21 almost every time. That's what they did last night. They tried to make it as short a game as possible, and because they don't have any bench, they don't have an up and down the floor kind of game. And if they get a lead, it's really easy to play that way. If they're behind, they struggle to play that slow when you're behind, when you've got to have some points.
And Indiana can make it very difficult for teams if they have the lead with that inside game because they don't have to get in a hurry. They can pound on you, and they've got two guys down there that are pretty successful in Kel Ware and Malik Renew in wearing you out. And like you said, if they can't stop them on top of just taking their time and lengthening the game, then that's not a recipe for Northwestern.
Yeah, no, it's not. And Indiana, kind of contrary to past years, Indiana has not had bad starts in games. They've actually had pretty darn good starts all the way up through the first media timeout to the second media timeout. They've had some pretty good starts. If they can have another one of those, you put Northwestern into a position where they can't play the way they want to. And if you let them play the way they want to, you're in trouble because they have great guard play. Barnheiser is just a extremely solid player on the verge of probably being one of the league's, better players in the next coming years. You just can't let Northwestern play the way they want to play. And if they get to walk it up the floor, run offense for 20, 25 seconds, and then, get Boo Buie making a play going down the lane or shooting a three, you're going to struggle to beat them. And that's what Rutgers allowed them to do for a good portion of the game last night. The last few ball games, Northwestern has had a couple different defenses tried against them. I think a couple of games ago against Penn State, who also has really good guards, they double teamed Boo Buie most of the time he touched the ball. So they were getting it out of his hands, and they made other people beat him. And that game was at Northwestern. Northwestern figured out a way to win. Then the game against Rutgers, they didn't do that. They didn't take it out of Boo Buie's hands, but they just made it really hard to drive inside the lane. And that made it so that when Boo Buie started out, he made 6 of his first 7 3-point shots. That's how they were out to the lead they had. But then when those shots weren't going in, I think he finished 6 of 10. So he missed his last 3 3-pointers that he took. And Barnheiser, I think, made the only one in the second half for them. They struggle when you take them out of that part of their game. And that's why Rutgers was able to come back and win in that game last night.
And yes, I mentioned Barnheiser, an Indiana kid.
Yeah.
Like Luke Goody for Illinois, another Indiana kid who is doing well in the Big Ten. It's a shame to see guys like that not brought in, not kept in the state, but for Indiana, they could have used any or either of those guys. Both shoot the 3 ball.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, Barnheiser's not really a 3-point shooter. He's not a very good 3-point shooter. He's a really good mid-range player for his size.
He's the worst of the bunch at 34.2.
In Indiana, he'd be third best at that percentage. But at 34, I mean, he's not. That's not his favorite shot. He's capable of making it. He's a lot like Galloway. He's capable of making it, but it's not what he would love to do. But he's for his size. He's very physical and strong, good with the ball. He's a tough guard. He's tough to defend. And so
he averages 7 rebounds a game. Not a lot of guards average that many rebounds a game.
He's one of those guys that, I don't don't know what they really list him as, because if you look at their lineup, I mean, he's really kind of their 4-man. Now that Martinelli's in there, you could probably swing those two guys between 3 and 4, whichever one they are. The Matthew Nicholson guys, obviously their center, but Martinelli and Barnheiser, you could swing back and forth between number 3 and 4. So I mean, he's a big guard, small forward player, but he's good. You're right. I mean, getting out of the state of Indiana, Luke Goody. You look at the roles that those guys are playing on, other Big Ten teams that are not from the state of Indiana, and they could definitely make an impact on this Indiana basketball team. Now, you're not going to get every kid. You're not going to get, you're not even going to get half the kids. But those are ones that you look at. Indiana has a big hole in their roster, and that hole is not an individual type of player. It's a shooter. Like they lack shooting the basketball on a consistent basis. And otherwise, they have everything. They've got height, they've got length, they've got athleticism, they've got good guards, quickness. They've got all of the tools except for the one basketball fundamental thing of being able to shoot the ball consistently well. And, that's why we see some games they look like one of the top 25 teams in the country, and some teams they look like where they're ranked, about number 100.
You mentioned Indiana's had really good starts, and then they seem like they kind of hold on for dear life sometimes.
Yeah.
Is part of that teams making adjustments and Indiana not adjusting to those adjustments?
Yeah, I mean, when you look at the way Indiana plays, and Indiana comes down and no matter what the first 2 or 3 passes are in Indiana's offense, 4 or 5 is supposed to go either to Khalil Ware or Malik Renew. Like that's just a known. That every team that plays us knows that. And so, really, if you think about it, it makes it difficult. Think about coaching like a 5th grade team, and when you got young kids, the worst part about running like a motion offense is because they have to make too many passes, and those kids tend to make more errors than older kids, NBA players or college players, you would think. But in Indiana's case, the more passes and things that they make, the more opportunity there is for turnover or bad decisions or a bad play or a bad shot or whatever it might be. And I'm not saying they should come down and jack it right away, but I do think Indiana should come down with a little bit an alternative purpose. And that might be, hey, you know what, guys, let's try to get 5 3-point shots up in the first 10 minutes of the game. Okay, don't put it on them right away and say, hey, we need to shoot a 3 in the first 3 possessions. But in the first 10 minutes of the game, let's try to get 5 3-point shots up. And I think that would change the mindset a little bit of pound it inside, because that's easy for other teams to figure out a way to defend. And Indiana is good at it. Hey, Malik Renew's a very good player. Khalil Ware, very good player. Take away Zach Edey, those 2 players are probably the most dominant 2 big guys in all of the Big Ten. And figure out a way to defend that. If you don't have surrounding parts that can make plays and make the defenses come out and guard you, a lot of people think that making 3-pointers is just great for the scoreboard. Obviously it is, but it also changes the way teams have to defend you. And when they have to extend, the farther away from the basket defenses have to come, the easier it is for offenses to drive and penetrate and throw it inside and do those things. And right now, Indiana doesn't have enough threats on the outside to make it easy for those guys on the interior.
For Indiana, offensively, especially toward this end of the season where people are showing all their frustration, the fans, there's so much, they should do this and they should do that. And I'm like, first of all, whoa, you have to remember these players play specific positions that are kind of required to have, not always, but and they just would rather see a player in there as opposed to a positional player. And like Gabe Cupps, no, he does not bring a lot to the table offensively, but he helps the offense in a positive way. But like you said, he doesn't, do much. But they also, if you put Trey Galloway at the point, are you limiting what he normally does? Or are you improving the offense? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, so I've thought a lot about this, and so in 1960s, 70s, and 80s, you had 1 through 5 players on the floor. Your one player was your point guard, generally your smallest player on the floor, and your best ball handler. Your 2 guy was a shooting guard, and he was the guy who probably took about the most amount of shots. And your 3 guy was a wing player or a small forward, or then your next guy was a forward, and then your 5 guy was a center. Throw that out the window. Like, everyone needs to eliminate that as that's what basketball was in a textbook in 1970. And today, basketball is not that way. Indiana doesn't need, this is going to come across the wrong way because I'm going to use his name. I won't. Indiana doesn't need a true point guard on the floor. Okay. And I will tell you, I think this is what I would do as a coaching staff. And this is what I see other coaching staffs do with teams across the country, is they will pick a guy that the other team that's guarding a player from the other team is guarding him. That's not a pressurable kind of player. So take like a 4-man, whoever's guarding Malik Renew. Malik Renew is probably our best ball handler. That's a 4 or 5 player. Okay? Just to use a number. That's a forward or a center. And no center is going to pressure him and take the ball away from him. Okay. So in that instance, why wouldn't you use that guy just to bring the ball up the floor and initiate your offense and get it going? I don't want him to try to dribble penetrate. I want the ball in his hands with his back to the basket. But just to initiate the offense and get it going, no teams nowadays come down, they throw one pass and then throw it into the interior. That's not the way basketball's run anymore. They run weaves and dribble handoffs and ball screens. And there's no reason why the offense needs to be initiated by a true definition number 1 point guard. That's just not reality anymore. Our best guy coming off of a ball screen is Trey Galloway. He's not a point guard. Even when he brings the ball up the floor, please, people, he's not a point guard. Like, that doesn't by definition make you a point guard because you bring the ball up the court. You're just the guy that initiated the offense. And so I want Gabe Cupps to produce a lot more on the court. I think he's capable. I think he's in his own head. I think he's not hearing the right things that are transitioning in his brain. That means I need to produce more. That doesn't just mean points. It can mean points, but it means drive, penetrate, and kick the ball. I mean, this is a good example because Indiana fans, watch enough Purdue to understand this. If Braden Smith did not score a point, he would significantly positively impact the basketball game in a good way for Purdue. Okay. And Gabe Cupps needs to be able to do that same thing. And all he is doing right now is filling a role. He is a facilitator of the ball. If it comes from that person that throws it to me, I throw it to somebody else. He's not creating anything. And so that's the reason why I'm saying, I hate to use his name because I'm not saying I don't want Gabe Cupps to play. I want him to play. I want him to produce. But all 5 positions for Indiana have to produce. And they can't have one that doesn't fulfill some level of production on the offensive end of the court. And if they have a person that's not doing that, then you've got to replace them with somebody else. And that's where I see they're at right now.
Yeah, and using someone like Malik Renew, who is quite capable of pushing the ball up the floor, like you said, that really, to me, seems to put the defense in a quandary because they're like, oh, wait a minute, well, how we're not used to defending this. Right. Our guy's out of position. And then you can, if you have a fluent offense, which I think that has been a problem for Indiana, they haven't had the fluidity on offense that they need, even if they did that, but maybe that would just be the impetus to start it. But yeah, Indiana needs to do something different, and that would sure be a hell of a start.
Let's take Northwestern as an example, because they're our next game coming up. And if you took Malik Renew and had him bringing the ball up the floor, he's either going to be guarded by Brooks Barnheiser or Nick Martinelli. And neither one of those guys is going to pressure him in a way where he would not be able or capable of bringing the ball up the floor and initiating the offense. On the flip side of that, if you let Mackenzie Mbako bring the ball up the floor, he's going to be guarded by Ryan Langborn or Nick Martinelli or Brooks Barnheiser, one of those three guys. And that person is not going to take the ball away from Mackenzie Mbako. So you have multiple people who are very capable of bringing the ball up the floor that are not going to get pressured, that are going to be able to initiate your offense. And it doesn't need to be a point guard. And I think that's the avenue. Like, look, you look at the schedule right now for Indiana. And this, I understand people can totally make fun of me for saying this, and I get it. I don't have a lot of reason to back this up other than the schedule for Indiana right now is favorable. Like they could very easily, what do we have? Do we have 7 games left or 6?
7.
They could win 6 of those 7 games pretty darn easily. Easily is not the right way. They are very capable of winning 6 of those 7 games. And if they can do that and not lose their first game in the Big Ten tournament, I honestly believe they're an NCAA tournament team. And I know that's laughable.
John's with you. John is right with you.
Yeah, I mean, look at the numbers. Like, look at who they would beat. Look at where you'd be beating Michigan State. You'd be beating Rutgers. You'd be beating Northwestern. You would put yourself in front of all of those teams in the Big Ten. And then as long as you don't lose on Thursday in the Big Ten tournament, you'd be in a position to have a decent chance at making the tournament. You'd at least be in the conversation anyway. Where right now, I see everyone talking about NIT bids and all that. I've never seen anyone talk about an NIT bid in January and February, ever. Like, it shocks me.
I hear you. The 7 games, I don't disagree that there is not a game on there that they are not capable of winning, but from what I've seen, they haven't shown me the ability to go to Maryland's not doing as well as they did last year, so that might still be a possibility. But, man, playing up in Minnesota is going to be tough. We saw what they did last night, but it's not impossible. Northwestern is probably going to be the biggest, I hate to use this word, hump to get over. But I
don't think that. I mean, I don't think Northwestern, they are a totally different team. And the reason why they were playing as well as they were, he's their best player. But Ty Berry was a major, major contributor. The games that they lost, Ty Berry didn't play well. He was a major part of what they were doing. Now, Nick Martinelli, I'm telling you, like, they have to change their way they play a little bit because he's a taller player, but he's crafty. He's extremely good. I think he might be their second best player. No offense to Brooks Barnheiser. I think he's great too. But they're a totally different team. And I'm telling you, Jim, you look at their bench. I hate to be disrespectful because I'm not trying to call any kids out, but they have no bench production. None now. Like, Martinelli was really kind of it. And he was a good one to bring off the bench. You only need 7, maybe 8 players in the Big Ten. Anyway, most teams at this time of year are cutting their substitution patterns down. But this team doesn't have that. Like, they've got 5, and like I said before, if a player comes in off the bench and has a career night, we seem to notice that happens a lot at Indiana. I don't know why. But if a player comes in and has a career night, then that will probably give them a great opportunity to win. But if they don't, they've got nothing. And if Indiana can get Matthew Nicholson in trouble, they are really, really in a bad spot.
Yeah, they Northwestern, I'd say 65% of their points come from the guards. Without question. Actually, it was probably more than that because I didn't include Ty Berry, who's gone. So it's more than that. It was probably 75% of their scoring came from their guards, and you lose Ty Berry, like you said, they've got nothing on the inside.
Well, yeah, and Nicholson, who's their starting center, I mean, he does a lot of their ball screening, and so
averages 5 points a game,
right, and plays a lot of minutes, and he's very prone to fouls. Like, if we can get the ball inside and just make him play defense, I don't care if he blocks a shot or two at the beginning. I want him to have to defend somebody shooting the basketball 10 times in the first 10 minutes because he's going to foul him 3 times. And if you can get him to the bench, they're playing guys who are not used to playing very many minutes. Let's just put it that way.
We've got to take a break. Talk about plenty more college basketball when we come back. Don't forget myjumpshot.com. Do you have a kid, boy, girl, that elementary on up that's needs to improve their jump shot? Everybody needs to improve their jump shot. Even you do. Great gift. You just missed Valentine's Day, so that one's out the window. But there's always, I'm sure Todd has a post-Valentine's special all the time.
Sure.
As a matter of fact, that may be the most popular package of the year. Just kidding. But make sure you go to myjumpshot.com. Todd Leary with us, back with more here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio right after this.
We'll be right back for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
In the market. Yeah, I need to get you to go on Rivals and just start chatting with people about that.
Yeah, no, I need to, for sure.
There's got to be tons of freaking people on there.
Yeah,
in those forums.
Agree. Let me know what I need to do.
Well, we just I can probably have him. Do you know the password you probably would have used? You don't use a similar password?
No idea.
All right. I'll send him an email and just go into it and open up another free account or a free account. And then once you do, let me know, and then I'll send the email to up there, and I'll say, hey,
I got you.
And then I'll show you how to go into the forums, and because it's what's called a sticky page. It's stuck to the top of both forums, but then you can also just have conversations.
Yeah.
But we also put that in. I have them put that in stories as well with the logo, and it's a live link. Boom.
Perfect.
Should have went to the NBA All-Star game and said, "Here's myjumpshot.com, baby."
How about Caitlin Clark last night? Did you see the beginning of that game?
I did not see the beginning. I wanted
to watch it until she broke the record, and it took 3 shots. It was pretty impressive.
That the record breaker, it's just stupid. I mean, most people could try that shot 15 times.
Oh, yeah.
And might be able to hit it once. Didn't even think about it.
She's good.
I mean, she crossed half court and said, "This has got to get out of my hand."
That's what's going to be hard. I mean, that's where she's just got to go to the right situation in the WNBA, because what if you don't have a coach that's that lenient and lets you shoot that?
Well, I mean, you hit that for freaking percentage. Who the hell's going to shut that down?
I'll tell you, Bob Knight. Bob Knight wouldn't have let that happen in a million years.
So how would Larry Bird have?
Jay Edwards.
This is a great conversation then.
All right, here we go.
Now, fresh seafood. Chop Shop Market and Table has the largest selection of in-house made products around and everything you need to make a gourmet meal at home. Or pick out a tomahawk steak or a grouper filet and enjoy it cooked to perfection in Chop Shop Steakhouse. Chop Shop Market and Table, a part of the Wild Food Group, is your butcher, baker, and fish house, no matter where you live.
This segment is brought to you by Reynolds Family Dentistry in Sellersburg. Welcome back to Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back, everybody. Indiana Sports Beat Radio on this Friday. I hope you're ready for the weekend. Todd Leary, the Todd Father, with us. Brought to you by myjumpshot.com. For any and everyone who has someone who needs to work on that jump shot, because let me tell you, shooting today sucks. But not always. There are some people that can shoot the rock, man.
There's one we know of.
Oh my God. Yeah, we were talking about this in the break. I hadn't mentioned it all day. Caitlin Clark, of course, breaks the NCAA women's scoring record last night. And caveat, there are like 2 other records above her still. Before the NCAA started regulating women's basketball in like 82 or whatever, the AIAW ran women's basketball. You see Indiana women have a banner in Assembly Hall from maybe a Final Four appearance there, I think. But there is a woman that has that scoring record, and then another lady from the 70s, Pearl Washington. How could it not? What a perfect name. She was the original Pearl. She had like 4,000 points.
She was Pearl Washington before Earl the Pearl?
I'm pretty sure that was her name.
You fact check that?
But Earl, his name was Earl. They nicknamed him the Pearl. Her name is Pearl, which was crazy. But yeah, Caitlin Clark, not only did she set the record last night, she set a career high with 49 points. First, how do you not let her get 50? Just go let her get one more shot. But anyway, 49 points. She obliterates.
Because what, Jim? Because what, Jim? You think she would have got more publicity if she scored 50?
Oh no, they ran. Oh my God, they ran that thing. I was like, can we switch this over to the Purdue game?
It was the breaking news ticker thing scrolling across the bottom of the screen the whole night.
It goes awesome. Right along with Taylor Swift.
I watched her play the beginning. I wanted to watch until she broke the record last night, and it took 3 shots. And I'll tell you what I found. This is why I really respect her and enjoy her, is because she even said in an interview prior to the game, like days before the game, she wanted the record breaker to be a logo distance 3.
Hey, that's Larry Bird stuff right there.
This is Larry Bird holding his finger up. This is Michael Jordan with the I can't miss symbol. This is all like she has embraced it. And you cannot possibly if you enjoy sports, you can't not enjoy, especially if you enjoy basketball, you can't not enjoy to watch her play. And I'm an Indiana fan. I want to support Indiana women's basketball the most. I get that. I totally should play in IU next Thursday night. Can't wait to watch that game. But she is must watch TV.
Well, Indiana fans, they better become more accepting of her, because there is a better than average chance that she's going to be playing at the next stop out of Indianapolis with the Fever, since they have the number 1 pick in the WNBA. And her boyfriend is Connor McCaffrey, who happens to work for the Indiana Pacers.
Does he really?
So, yes, I didn't know that either. I just discovered that. So I'm like, yep, she's coming out. But not only that, though, Todd, she's one of only 6 women ever to have 1,000 assists.
Yeah, hey, I looked at her stat line last night, and I mean,
that's remarkable.
It's not like she's always looking to get someone. Like she's always looking to make the pass and get someone open. She's just a fantastic player. Like we shouldn't enjoy watching her play, because outside of Purdue, there's nowhere worse we'd rather her be. Like we don't want to root for someone that's at Iowa, but she's entertaining. She's brought a whole different light to that. And you know, I heard Robbie Hummel say this the other day on the radio or on TV, and I don't know when he first said it, I chuckled, and then I started thinking, I'm like, you know what, he might be right. And he said, because LeBron went straight to the NBA, social media is a different animal now than it ever was back, you know, even 10 years ago. But she's the most famous college athlete of all time. I think that's true. Like, I mean, I can't possibly. I've tried to think of it for several days. I can't come up with someone that's a more well-known college athlete.
She is definitely the most promoted. without question. ESPN was milking that, and hey, that's what that's their job.
State Farm commercials, like she's national commercials everywhere. Like, I know that couldn't happen years ago. I understand it's but that's why I think that I think that statement is accurate. Like, she is probably the most famous college athlete of all time.
We talked about some of the shots she takes are just, if it was anybody else, you'd say, what the hell are you doing, you idiot?
Here's the thing. You remember me saying
drains these things.
You remember me saying this last week when we talked and we were talking about Gabe Cupps, and I said, and we used CJ Gunn as another example, and we said, you know what, those guys have got to come in and take a risk. There are going to be no plays drawn up for them to shoot a logo 3. Okay? There is not a play set up for Caitlin Clark to shoot a logo 3. Okay. Now, she's proven over time that she can make it, but I bet that first one she shot, whenever that was, I bet
Lisa Bluter blew up.
I'll bet she looked around like, what in the world is going on around here? And someone on Indiana's men's basketball team has to take that risk. And the hard part is there's not a whole lot of margin for error. They got to take that risk, and they got to be successful at it. Because if you make your first 2, you not to shoot them anymore. You know, it's like when Edey shot a 3-pointer against Indiana.
My God.
I mean, they can't tell him not to shoot another one.
He hit it.
Not to shoot it. I know.
He's shooting 50% in his career now. We were talking about the very probability that she's going to wind up in Indiana with the Fever next year. And you're talking about you better hope that she lands with a coach that will allow that. And I'm like, well, who the hell's not going to allow that? And you said,
you know, I mean, if Coach Knight were in a situation like I'll tell you this, Jay Edwards, in my opinion, like Steve Alford was my favorite player growing up, just age wise, he lined up perfectly with that was my idol growing up. And he was just I don't know how someone could argue there's a better shooter than him. But Jay Edwards was probably the best tough shot maker, distance
clutch
3-point shooter. Yeah,
clutch.
he was
a clutch
shooter. And if you polled players that played with him, I don't think anyone would argue with the fact of he was on a different level than most people. And he wouldn't hardly have been allowed to come down and shoot the shots that she shoots. And I can tell you, if he did, you better make 70% of them. Because if you made 2 in a row and missed your next 5, you're not going to shoot another one. For Coach Knight, that's just the way that it was. So that's all I'm saying about Caitlin Clark. Like, I'll tell you this. If you went and asked Steve Kerr, you know, when Steph Curry retires, the next guard that comes in, that plays for them, is he going to be allowed to shoot the same shot Steph Curry shoots? No. So all I'm saying, my analogy with that is the coach for, let's just say the Indiana Fever select her number 1. The coach at Indiana is going to have to adjust and maybe adapt a little different philosophy or a little different game plan or a little different offense to incorporate some of the things that she brings to the game that they've never coached before. Steve Kerr has never played with nor coached another player like Steph Curry. And whatever team she goes to in the NBA will never have coached or played with a player that was anywhere near like Caitlin Clark. And so that's why I'm saying it's going to be an adjustment for everyone, because the first, you know, the players that she plays with, let's say it's the Indiana Fever, they're not just going to walk in and all of a sudden say, okay, well, here's the ball, you know, take us to the promised land. They all think they've got egos. They think they can play too. And the first time she comes down or the first 3 times she comes down the floor and shoots a logo 3 and doesn't make it, they're going to be like, hey, how about you, you know, we're talented too. How about you give us a shot here? But on the flip side of that, if she shoots 3 of them and makes them, they're not going to say a word. They're just going to sell tickets.
And her teammates love it because they keep winning. And that's.
Look at that arena last night. That place was a zoo. It was a madhouse. What's it going to look like next year? You know, hey, and I hope all of women's games all over the country sell out. I wish every atmosphere was like that because that's just fun. Everyone will tell you that's just fun. But I mean, she's a generational talent. Like, it's not going to be that way next year, and we all know that.
Yep, and I'm already thinking ahead to her and Stephanie Ionscu in a 3-point shooting contest. Much like Saturday night, you're going to have Steph Curry and Ionscu in a 3-point shooting contest, and she's shooting from the NBA 23-9 mark. Who you got?
I mean,
she currently holds the record for.
Would you ever bet against Steph Curry? Like, I mean, I wouldn't. Did you see the shot he made from the tunnel? Did you see the shot he made from the tunnel the other night?
No.
He made a shot from the tunnel to the opposite, heaving it like that. Everyone was filming it, obviously. Heaving it all the way down the court, so way longer than a full court shot. He was in the tunnel. Like underneath, people are filming it down like this, and he heaved it to the other end of the court and made it.
That's crazy.
That dude's a freak.
One other thing I want to bring up, and I wish you should be the coach. Indiana desperately needs a TBT team. First. Secondly, Hinkle Fieldhouse is going to host a TBT event.
Oh, are they really?
At this one, yes. So can you imagine if you had a Butler? Butler's going to have a team. Butler, Purdue has a team. If Indiana had a team, Notre Dame. Well, I don't. Notre Dame, maybe not. Who knows? But the first three, Butler, Indiana, Purdue. No reason. How does Indiana not have a freaking TBT team? Other than, I will say this. Indiana produces more NBA talent than those other teams. So you've got 7 or 8 guys that are currently in the NBA that have come off of the rosters more recently and can't play. And then I guess then it just runs into scheduling from there for guys that may be out of the country. I'm not sure. You would know better than me.
Yeah. Well, you know what? I'll just say this. Like, take an enormous beating. Like it, like I wake up today at 53 years old and parts of me hurt. And a lot of that's from basketball from a long time ago. Imagine these guys. I only played 2 years out of college. Imagine these guys that are playing 8-10 years overseas. Like the amount and factor in when I was a kid, we played maybe 10 or 12 AAU games in a summer. These teams nowadays are playing 12 in a weekend. Or they're maybe not 12, but I mean, they're playing. There's a decent chance they play 7 or 8 basketball games in a weekend. Think about what their bodies are going to be like when they get older. All I'm saying is it's hard. Like it's not, you have to find the right group of guys. Indiana just hasn't had the right group of guys graduate that wanted to continue on. I mean, Jordan Holes would have been a perfect person to kind of be on that. Like, there's no way you could have that team and not have him. I mean, he's only not been playing for a year now. Like, there's no way you could have that team and not have him play. Like, he'd be perfect for that. But
he'd light it up.
I don't know put around that.
1 minute.
I don't know if he could or not. Well, brother, I cannot thank you enough as always. Looking forward to Sunday, mainly so I can get another Jimbo special pizza over at Hoosier Hanks East, baby. But Indiana takes on Northwestern at 3 p.m. And then after that, Indiana basketball postgame after the game with Todd Leary as he'll break down whether or not Indiana can come through and pull off a needed win, but a win that would be impressive as well.
Yep.
Make sure you go to myjumpshot.com again. For all of you that have kids, there's got to be thousands of you all that have kids out there that are playing at one level or another. So make sure you go check that out.
Just make sure they're getting started right. That's all I'm asking.
And that's what Todd's there to do. Because we talked about the shooting is just, it's not, why is shooting, we have no time left, but the question would be, why is shooting so bad as compared to what it used to be? That's what we'll talk about.
The answer is basic fundamentals.
There you go. Hey, a big thanks to Bob Kravitz as well. And John, the producer, for keeping us between the white lines as always. Most importantly, thanks to each and every one of you. Without you, we have no reason to be here, and we are so happy that you guys give us this opportunity. Until Sunday, I'm Jim Coyle. I will see you on the radio.
Thanks for listening to Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube page for more clips and team coverage of Indiana basketball, football, and more. You can also find full episodes and tons of other content on thehoosier.com. We'll see you next time for another edition of Indiana